Reports today in Germany that RB Leipzig are apparently, quotes, in advanced talks over signing Nicolas Kuhn. A fee of £15 million has been mentioned. This is after yesterday, the Newcastle Chronicle published that apparently Newcastle are taking a serious look at Kuhn. Look, I know he scored 21 goals last season, Andy. I think he's obviously a very talented player. But for a player that was signed for £3 million, I think if Celtic were getting 15, personally, if it was up to me, I would take that.
I think that's what Celtic have done so well over the last 10, 15 years is they bring somebody in, they polish them up, they get more importantly, they get a turn out of them on the pitch, they contribute, and nobody can deny that Nicolas Kuhn, especially the first 5-6 months of the season, was almost unplayable. And then they move him on and they back themselves to go and find his replacement. And so, listen, I think it was a bit like I was on yesterday talking about Rangers and Nico asking if Rangers would get bids in that region, having spent £2.5 million, and you take it. And I think Celtic do exactly the same here, because I think importantly as well is to consider that Kuhn has had periods where he's dipped off a bit. Obviously, we know that when he first signed, he was struggling, he was having trouble with his teeth, and took him a while to overcome that issue. Obviously, starts the season in incredible form. So impressive, even in those early European games as well. Obviously, dips off a wee bit the second half of the season, but I think there's an aspect to that the league was already won. I don't think the pressure, the expectation levels to perform were quite the same, and I think there's a few players in that Celtic squad that allowed themselves just to drop their levels a bit, just because the pressure wasn't on them. But listen, he was terrific last season. At one point early on, I thought it was neck and neck between him and Desmond Maeda for Player of the Year. Obviously, he drops off, and Maeda maintained his level so impressively. But I think if Celtic could get £50 million for a guy, as you say, that can be up and down at times, I think that's a no-brainer. You take it. It's funny to see him going back to Germany after the way he was kind of written off as this, almost like unknown flop, almost the way that some of the German media spoke about him after his performances in Europe this season. I think if he does get it, it's a deserved move, because, as I say, in spells he's been absolutely terrific for Celtic.
What do you think, Scott? £50 million a fair price for Nicolas Kuhn?
For Celtic, definitely is. I think I said on here before, Daniel, and me, you and Jacko were on, that 15 million, you absolutely bite the hand off for it. That's taking nothing away from Kuhn. He's a terrific player and had a brilliant season, but for that kind of money, I think you need to bite the hand off, if that's what's being offered. And I just wonder, we touched on this, I say, last week sometime, and it's just a hunch. No, there's no kind of inside info, but it just feels like Kuhn maybe isn't quite 100% happy at Celtic, and maybe he's, I'm not saying he's angling for a move, but I don't think there's this speculation unless the player has intimated that he might be keen on a move. As I say, we interviewed him at Tannadice when Celtic clinched the title, and he came in and he was happy to win the league, but he was a bit grumpy as well about the kind of criticism that he'd had, and he felt as if he'd had to prove people wrong. He felt it was a bit unfair that he'd get a wee bit of flack when he hit that kind of dip. And maybe he was right, but I don't know, he just struck me as a guy that wasn't 100% kind of happy at Celtic. And it's interesting that now kind of several clubs have been mentioned. I think me, you and Jacko also spoke about his determination, desire to play for Germany. He spoke about it several times. And maybe he feels going back to the Bundesliga or going to the Premier League, obviously, will boost his chances of playing for the national team, despite what he's done at Celtic in the Champions League, which is obviously a great stage. But it just feels, you're just getting that feeling as the summer goes on that Kuhn might end up leaving, and that would certainly explain obviously why Celtic are keen to get the boy Nigrin in, who plays in a similar position, and they might need to go back. If Kuhn does go, they might need to go back for another winger after that. Certainly, if they're getting 15 million in the coffers, you'd expect them to go back into the transfer market and add another wide player. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks with Kuhn, but certainly for the outside looking in, doesn't look 100% happy, and it wouldn't surprise you now if he's moved on, if that big bid comes in.
Time will tell.